In the endless white silence of Antarctica, Adam stood alone, a young researcher surrounded by a world that seemed frozen beyond time. The horizon stretched in every direction, an unbroken sheet of ice meeting a pale sky, so still that even the wind felt hesitant to disturb it. This was the coldest, most isolated continent on Earth, a place many people imagined as lifeless and empty. For Adam, however, Antarctica was not just a frozen desert, it was a living laboratory, a place where nature whispered its oldest secrets to those patient enough to listen. Adam had come here after years of study and preparation. As a child, he had always been fascinated by maps and documentaries, especially the ones that showed places humans rarely touched. While others dreamed of cities filled with lights, he dreamed of silence. Antarctica, with its vast ice sheets and brutal temperatures, represented the ultimate challenge in the purest form of nature. Standing there now, wrapped in heavy gear, his breath forming small clouds in the air, he felt both insignificant and deeply connected to the planet. Days in Antarctica followed a strange rhythm. There were no familiar sounds of traffic or human activity, only the crunch of boots on snow, the distant cracking of ice, and the occasional cry of birds far away. Adam spent his time collecting samples, monitoring climate data, and documenting changes in the ice. The work was demanding, both physically and mentally. Isolation pressed heavily on the mind, and the silence could feel louder than noise. Yet Adam welcomed it. In that silence, he found clarity. One afternoon, while walking away from the research station to inspect a section of ice, Adam noticed something unusual. Beneath the thick layer of snow, he thought he heard a faint sound. At first, he dismissed it as the wind playing tricks on his ears. Antarctica was full of strange noises, ice shifting, snow settling, distant echoes bouncing across the frozen land. But as he paused and listened more carefully, the sound came again. It was soft, almost like a muffled cry. Curiosity replaced caution. Adam knelt down, pressing his gloved hand against the snow. The sound was definitely coming from beneath the surface. His heart began to beat faster. In a place where life was scarce, any sign of it felt extraordinary. He quickly grabbed a small shovel and began to dig carefully, removing layers of compacted snow and ice. As he dug deeper, the sound grew clearer. It was weak but unmistakably alive. Finally, Adam uncovered a small hollow beneath the ice, and there, trembling and exhausted, was a baby penguin. Its feathers were damp, its movements slow, and its eyes wide with fear. Somehow, it had become trapped under the ice, separated from its colony and unable to escape on its own. For a moment, Adam simply stared, overwhelmed by the fragile life before him. In one of the harshest environments on Earth, this tiny creature was fighting to survive. Gently, he lifted the penguin out of the hole, holding it close to shield it from the biting cold. The penguin let out a soft sound, not of panic, but of relief. Adam checked the area, scanning the horizon for signs of the penguin's colony. In the distance, he spotted a small group moving slowly across the ice. Carefully, he walked toward them, carrying the rescued chick. When he reached the group, the adult penguins reacted immediately, gathering around as Adam placed the chick on the ground. The baby waddled clumsily toward them, disappearing into the protective circle of its family. Adam stepped back, watching quietly. No applause, no dramatic music, no witnesses, just a simple moment of connection between human and nature. Yet to Adam, it felt profound. Standing there, he realized something that years of study had not fully taught him. Even in the most desolate places, life exists in delicate, determined forms. It does not announce itself loudly. Sometimes, it waits silently beneath the surface, hoping to be noticed. That evening, back at the research station, Adam couldn't stop thinking about the penguin. Antarctica was often described as a frozen wasteland, a place defined by emptiness. But that description felt incomplete now. Beneath the ice, within the silence, life was breathing, adapting, surviving against incredible odds. The continent was not empty, it was simply misunderstood. As days passed, Adam found himself more attentive to the small signs around him. A line of penguin tracks in the snow, the shadow of a bird passing overhead, the subtle changes in the ice that revealed movement beneath. The rescue had changed his perspective. He no longer saw Antarctica as a place of absence, but as a place of quiet resilience. This realization extended beyond his work. Adam began to reflect on how often people judged places, and even other people, by their surface appearance. How many times did humans look at something quiet or remote and assume there was nothing of value there? How many stories went unheard because they were not loud enough to demand attention? Antarctica, with its white silence, became a powerful metaphor in Adam's mind. Just as life existed beneath the ice, strength and purpose often existed beneath calm exteriors. The world was full of hidden struggles and unseen courage. Sometimes, all it took was patience and care to uncover them. The story of the penguin became something Adam carried with him long after he left Antarctica. When he shared his experiences with others, he spoke not just about climate data and research findings, but about that moment of rescue. He spoke about listening closely, about paying attention to the quiet signs, about respecting even the smallest forms of life. For viewers and listeners, the story resonated deeply. In a fast-paced world filled with noise and distraction, the idea that life could thrive in silence felt both comforting and challenging. It reminded people to slow down, to look beyond what was obvious, and to recognize value in unexpected places. The lesson was simple yet powerful. Where we see emptiness, there may be life waiting. Where we see silence, there may be stories unfolding. Antarctica taught Adam that the harshest environments do not erase life, they refine it. And in doing so, they teach humanity humility. In the end, Adam realized that exploration was not just about traveling to distant places. It was about changing the way we see the world. The frozen continent had given him more than data, it had given him wisdom. Life, he learned, does not always bloom loudly. Sometimes, it survives quietly, under layers of ice, waiting for someone to listen. After the incident with the penguin, Adam's days in Antarctica began to feel different, as if an invisible layer had been lifted from the frozen land. The silence was still there, vast and heavy, but it no longer felt empty. It felt alive, like a held breath. Every step he took across the ice now carried a quiet awareness that beneath his boots, beneath the endless white, life was persisting in ways most people would never imagine. The research station itself seemed smaller to him now, less like a fortress against nature and more like a temporary guesthouse in a much larger, ancient world. At night, when Adam sat alone by the small window, watching the pale glow of the Antarctic sky, his thoughts drifted far beyond data charts and temperature readings. He began to write more in his personal journal, not as a scientist, but as a human being trying to make sense of what he had felt that day. He wrote about fragility and strength, existing side by side, about how the baby penguin, helpless and trapped, had also been incredibly resilient, surviving long enough to be heard. That thought stayed with him. Being heard, how many forms of life, Adam wondered, struggled quietly without ever being noticed. A few days later, Adam joined a small field team to survey a distant ice shelf. The journey was long and exhausting, with biting winds and blinding reflections from the snow. Yet even in those harsh conditions, Adam noticed subtle signs he might have overlooked before. Clusters of ice shaped by currents beneath, tiny cracks that hinted at movement below, distant sounds that were no longer just noise, but possible signals. During one break, as the team rested and adjusted equipment, Adam stood apart for a moment, staring out at the horizon. One of his colleagues asked him what he was looking for. Adam paused before answering. He realized he wasn't looking for anything specific. He was listening. That answer surprised even him. The work in Antarctica was not without danger. Sudden storms could trap teams for days, and temperatures could drop so low that exposed skin froze in seconds. One evening, a severe storm rolled in unexpectedly, forcing the team to shelter inside the station. Winds howled like unseen creatures, shaking the walls and reminding everyone how small they were. In moments like these, fear was natural. But Adam felt something else too, a deep respect for the balance that allowed life to exist at all in such extremes. As the storm raged outside, Adam thought again about the penguin. That tiny life had trusted him instinctively, without knowing who he was or why he was there. That trust felt like a responsibility. Humans often saw themselves as observers of nature, but Adam now felt they were also participants. Every action, every choice, left an imprint. When the storm finally passed, the landscape looked unchanged at first glance, just more snow, more ice. But Adam knew better now. Change didn't always announce itself dramatically. Sometimes it happened quietly, beneath the surface, shaping the future in slow, patient ways. Weeks turned into months, and Adam's time in Antarctica neared its end. As the departure date approached, he felt an unexpected heaviness. He had come here with a clear goal: research, data, contribution to science. He would leave with those things, but he would also leave with something less tangible and far more personal. On his final field day, Adam returned alone to the area where he had found the trapped penguin. The hole was long gone, covered by fresh snow, indistinguishable from the rest of the landscape. Yet standing there, Adam felt a strong connection to the place. He imagined the penguin growing stronger, blending back into the rhythms of its colony, unaware of how much it had changed one human's perspective. Adam knelt and placed his hand on the snow, just as he had done before. This time, there was no sound. Still, he smiled. He didn't need proof anymore. He had learned to trust that life didn't need to be visible to be real. When Adam finally left Antarctica, the transition back to the noisy world was overwhelming. Airports, voices, engines, screens, all felt too loud, too fast. People asked him what it was like to live in such a dead place. Each time, Adam gently corrected them. Antarctica, he said, was not dead. It was quiet. Back home, Adam continued his work as a researcher, but his approach had subtly changed. He became more patient, more attentive, less focused on immediate results and more interested in long-term patterns. He mentored younger scientists, encouraging them not just to study nature, but to respect it, to listen to it. The story of the penguin stayed with him, and over time, he realized it wasn't just about Antarctica, it was about people too. In classrooms, offices, families, and communities, there were individuals who felt invisible, trapped beneath expectations or silence. Like the penguin, they didn't always cry out loudly. Sometimes, they just waited, hoping someone would notice. Adam began to speak about this during lectures and interviews. He talked about quiet strength, about unseen resilience, about the danger of assuming emptiness where there was simply silence. Audiences listened, not because the story was dramatic, but because it was true in a way they recognized. Years later, Adam returned to Antarctica, older and more experienced, but carrying the same sense of humility. As his boots touched the ice once again, he felt that familiar stillness wrap around him. This time, he didn't feel alone at all. He knew now that life didn't need warmth to exist, nor noise to matter. It only needed space, time, and the chance to endure. Antarctica, in all its frozen vastness, had taught him one of the most important lessons of his life, that the world is far richer than it appears at first glance. Where we see desolation, there may be hope. Where we see silence, there may be stories waiting. And sometimes, the smallest encounter, a faint sound beneath the ice, can change the way we see everything forever.